When Claire Whitmore's company faced a catastrophic $100 million loss, she never expected salvation to come from a delivery man in a brown uniform. But Malik Carter's sharp eyes caught what an entire boardroom of executives had missed. And when the cameras captured Claire's emotional breakdown, their moment of connection exploded across social media like wildfire. What started as gratitude quickly became something far more dangerous, a forbidden attraction that would force a powerful white CEO to choose between everything she'd built and a love that could destroy her reputation forever. The world was watching, the board was plotting, and Claire had no idea that her next decision would either elevate them both to unexpected heights or tear apart everything they dared to dream. But when the ultimate betrayal came from the person she trusted most, would love be enough to survive the storm that was coming? If you're ready to dive into this incredible journey of love, courage, and second chances, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story will show you that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the most unexpected encounters. The alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m. sharp. Malik Carter reached over and tapped it off with the same steady hand he used for everything else in his life. No rushing, no drama. Just another Thursday morning. He sat up on the edge of his bed and stretched. The small apartment was quiet except for the hum of traffic starting to build outside his window. Malik liked the early hours. They belonged to him before the world got loud and demanding. Coffee first. Always coffee first. The machine gurgled to life while Malik pulled on his brown delivery uniform. The shirt was crisp, pressed the night before. His name tag sat exactly where it should be. He'd learned a long time ago that how you showed up mattered. People noticed details, even when they pretended not to see you at all. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister Renee. Stop letting people treat you small. You're worth more than you think. Love you, baby brother. Malik smiled and typed back. Good morning to you too, sis. Renee always knew when he needed to hear those words. She had that gift. Maybe it was because she'd watched him get knocked down enough times to recognize when his shoulders started to slump just a little. The coffee was strong and black, just how he liked it. Malik sipped it while he reviewed his route list on his phone. 12 stops today. Normal Thursday load. Nothing looked too complicated until he saw the last entry. Whitmore Consumer Goods HQ, rush delivery, handle with care. He'd driven past that building plenty of times, sleek glass and steel reaching up toward the clouds. The kind of place where everyone walked fast and talked faster. Where people like him were invisible until something went wrong. Malik finished his coffee and grabbed his keys. Time to go. The distribution center buzzed with its usual morning energy. Forklifts moved in careful patterns while drivers checked their manifests and loaded their trucks. Malik nodded to the guys he knew and minded his own business with the ones he didn't. Carter? He turned toward the voice. Marcus Washington, the floor supervisor, walked over with a clipboard in his hand. Morning, Marcus. You got that Whitmore delivery today? Marcus asked. Yeah, last stop. Something special about it? Marcus shrugged. Just came down from upstairs that it's priority. CEO level stuff. Don't mess it up. Malik nodded. Marcus was tough but fair. He didn't play favorites, but he also didn't throw his drivers under the bus when customers got cranky. What's the word on that place? Malik asked while he signed for his packages. Heard they're having a rough week, said Tommy, another driver who was loading nearby. Something about a big contract going sideways. CEO's supposed to be ice cold, though. Never seen her smile, never seen her sweat. Everyone's human, Malik said quietly. Tommy laughed. Not at that level, my man. Not at that level. Malik finished loading his van and did his safety check. Everything secure, everything in its place. That's how you kept your job and your dignity in this business. You showed up, did the work right, and didn't give anyone a reason to look at you sideways. The Whitmore building appeared on his horizon around 11:30. It really was impressive up close. All clean lines and expensive glass. People in expensive suits walked in and out, most of them talking into phones or staring at tablets. Malik parked in the delivery zone and took a steady breath. Just another stop. Just another package to deliver. But something felt different today. Maybe it was the way everyone seemed to be moving just a little too fast. Maybe it was the tension he could sense, even from the parking lot. Whatever was happening in there, it was bigger than a normal Thursday. The lobby was all marble and modern art that probably cost more than Malik made in a year. He walked to the security desk, where a guard looked up from his computer screen. "Delivery for executive floor," Malik said, showing his ID and the package manifest. The guard checked his name against a list and handed him a visitor badge. "Loading elevator is around the corner. Someone should meet you up there." The elevator was industrial-sized, built for moving more than people. Malik rode up, watching the floor numbers climb. 3rd floor, 7th floor, 15th floor. When the doors opened, he could feel the stress in the air like humidity before a storm. A young woman with an earpiece and a tablet practically ran toward him. "Are you the courier? Thank God. Come on, we need this now." "Where exactly am I going?" Malik asked, keeping his voice calm. "Conference room B, follow me, and hurry." They walked down a hallway lined with glass offices. Malik could see people inside hunched over, computers and whiteboards covered with numbers. Everyone looked like they were holding their breath. As they passed one conference room, he caught pieces of conversation through the slightly open door. "Rollout costs are catastrophic. 9-figure loss if we can't. Vendor calculations don't add up." The assistant stopped abruptly. "Wait here a second. Let me see if they're ready." Malik waited in the hallway, holding the package. His eyes wandered to a cart nearby stacked with printed reports and spreadsheets, numbers and charts everywhere, big numbers with lots of zeros, and that's when he saw it. A line item that appeared twice in the same column. Same vendor, same service, same cost. Listed in 2 different sections like it was 2 separate things. But it was the same thing. The decimal placement looked wrong too. Way wrong. He looked closer, careful not to touch anything. The math was simple once you saw the problem. Someone had counted the same massive expense twice and moved a decimal point. The kind of mistake that could happen to anyone when they're rushing and scared. The kind of mistake that could cost millions if nobody caught it. "Deliveries aren't allowed in this area." Malik turned toward the sharp voice. A tall man in an expensive suit stood in the doorway of the conference room, looking at Malik like he was some kind of threat. "I'm sorry," Malik said calmly. "I'm just delivering a package. But may I point out something?" The man's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me?" "There's an error in your calculations," Malik said, stepping forward carefully. "May I show you?" Every eye in the conference room turned toward Malik as he stepped inside. The space was all glass walls and a long table surrounded by people who looked like they hadn't slept in days. Computer screens glowed with spreadsheets and charts. At the head of the table sat a woman with perfect posture and tired eyes. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun. Her suit was elegant and expensive. She looked like she was holding the world together through pure willpower. This had to be the CEO, Claire Whitmore. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Malik said, looking directly at her. "May I have 30 seconds to show you something?" The man who'd snapped at him started to object, but Claire held up one hand. Her voice was calm, but edged with exhaustion. 30 seconds. Malik approached the cart with the printed reports. You have vendor line item 247B listed in both operational costs and infrastructure spending. It's the same service from the same company, but you're counting it twice. He pointed to the specific lines on 2 different pages. And this decimal here is in the wrong place. The actual cost is 10 times smaller than what you have calculated. A woman with an expensive laptop quickly pulled up the digital version. Her fingers flew over the keys for a moment. Then her face changed. He's right, she said quietly. The Hendricks Group. Contract is duplicated, and the decimal placement, oh my God. What's the corrected total? Claire asked. More typing, more calculations. The room was dead silent except for the clicking of keys. Instead of $104 million loss, it's $8.7 million. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Then Claire Whitmore started to laugh. It wasn't a polite business laugh. It was real laughter, the kind that starts in your belly and just keeps coming. She tried to stop it, covering her mouth with her hand, but it turned into something else. A sound that was half laugh and half sob. She turned away from the table, one hand pressed to her forehead. Her shoulders shook. When she looked up again, her eyes were wet. 3 days, she whispered to no one in particular. 3 days we've been tearing ourselves apart over this. She wiped her eyes quickly, trying to pull herself back together. That's when she noticed someone in the corner holding up their phone, screen pointed in her direction. Were you recording? She asked sharply. The person with the phone looked startled and guilty. This is huge news. Claire's face went pale. Delete it. But Claire, this is good news. People should know. Delete it. Now. But Malik could tell from the look on the person's face that it was too late. The moment was already captured, already saved, already about to become something bigger than any of them wanted. Malik stepped back into the hallway to give them space to work through whatever came next. He'd done what he came to do. Delivered the package, pointed out the error. Now he needed to get back to his route. The woman with the laptop followed him out. She looked shaken, but grateful. I'm Dina Park, she said quietly. Executive assistant. What's your name? Malik Carter. Just doing my job, ma'am. You just saved this company millions of dollars, and probably saved some jobs too. Thank you. Malik nodded. He wasn't looking for praise, just respect. Is she going to be okay? Dina glanced back toward the conference room where voices were starting to rise again. Claire's stronger than she looks, but this, being recorded like that, it's going to be hard for her. The conference room door opened and Claire came out. She'd pulled herself back together, but Malik could see the effort it was taking. Her professional mask was back in place, but it didn't quite fit right anymore. Mr. Carter, she said, extending her hand. Thank you. I can't tell you how much this means. Her handshake was firm, but her fingers trembled slightly. I'd like to offer you some kind of reward, she continued. A gift card, or perhaps a consulting fee for your time. Malik shook his head. That's not necessary. I don't need charity. Claire looked surprised. It's not charity, it's payment for services rendered. I was already getting paid to deliver packages. Malik said calmly. I just did my job. If you want to do something, you could let my supervisor know I handled myself professionally. That's all I need. For a moment, Claire just stared at him, like she was seeing something she hadn't expected. I'll do that, she said finally. Malik nodded and headed toward the elevator. He had 6 more stops to make before the end of his shift. Time to get back to his real work. But as the elevator doors closed, he heard Claire say to Dina, Find out everything you can about that man. Back in his delivery van, Malik tried to focus on the rest of his route, but his phone kept buzzing with texts and notifications. At a red light, he glanced at the screen. The first message was from Tony, a guy who worked the same distribution center. "Bro, you're on internal chat. CEO crying LOL." Malik's stomach dropped. He pulled into a parking lot at his next stop and checked his phone more carefully. Someone had put the video in the company group chat. The title read, "CEO melts for delivery guy." In the clip, you could see Claire's moment of breakdown clearly, her laughter turning to tears, her hand pressed to her forehead, and you could hear Malik's voice in the background explaining the error. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that it was already spreading beyond just the internal chat. Other people were sharing it, adding comments, making jokes. Malik finished his deliveries in a fog. At his last stop, he sat in the van and called Renee. "You sound weird," she said instead of hello. "What happened?" He told her everything, the error, the CEO's reaction, the video. "Oh, baby," Renee said when he finished. Viral attention can turn ugly real fast, especially when it involves a black man and a white woman in a business setting. You better be careful. "I was just trying to help." "I know you were. But the internet don't care about your good intentions. People see what they want to see." By evening, the clip had escaped the company chat completely. CEO and delivery guy was starting to trend on social media. Malik sat in his apartment scrolling through the comments. Some were sweet. "This is so wholesome. Guy just wanted to help." "Love seeing everyday heroes get recognition." Some were cruel. "Dude just wanted to get close to the boss lady." "Bet there's more to this story." And some made Malik's jaw clench. These people always looking for their come-up. Probably planned the whole thing. The comments weren't explicitly racist, but Malik could read between the lines. He'd been dealing with coded language his whole life. He knew how this story could be twisted. His phone rang. The display showed his delivery company's number. "Carter, this is Janet from management. Did you do something inappropriate today at the Whitmore account?" "I pointed out a calculation error that was costing them money. That's all." "Stay away from that account and keep your head down. We don't need this kind of attention." After Janet hung up, Malik sat in the dark, thinking about Renee's warnings. About how quickly things could change. About how a good deed could become a liability if the wrong people decided to make it one. 20 miles across town, Claire Whitmore was having her own sleepless night. She'd tried everything to distract herself, but she kept coming back to the video, to the way she'd looked in that moment. Vulnerable, human, weak. She'd built her entire career on being unshakable. The ice queen who never cracked under pressure. And now millions of people had seen her fall apart over a delivery man's kindness. She drafted a text to Dina. "Find out who he is. Quietly. No PR." Then she deleted it and wrote it again. Finally, she hit send. Because whatever was coming next, she had a feeling Malik Carter was going to be right in the middle of it. And despite everything her training told her about maintaining distance and controlling narratives, she couldn't stop thinking about the calm way he'd handled himself in that room. The way he'd refused her reward like it was beneath him. The way he'd looked at her like she was worth something more than her title. Claire fell asleep just before dawn, her phone still glowing with notifications she was afraid to read. The boardroom felt colder than usual when Claire walked in the next morning. Wesley Hargrove sat at the head of the table, his silver hair perfectly styled and his expression unreadable. 2 other board members flanked him, their faces serious. Claire took her seat and waited. She'd learned long ago that in rooms like this, the person who spoke first usually lost. "Claire?" Wesley began, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey. "We need to discuss yesterday's Incident. You mean when we prevented $100 million loss? Claire kept her voice level. Wesley's smile was thin. I mean, when you had an emotional breakdown on camera that's now been viewed by 500,000 people. The number hit Claire like a slap. 500,000. She'd stopped checking the view count after it hit 50,000. The delivery man prevented the loss, Claire said. I was simply relieved. The optics are concerning, said Margaret Chen, one of the other board members. The company can't afford to look unstable right now. We have the Brennan acquisition coming up. Investors are watching everything. Wesley leaned forward. We need to control the narrative, distance ourselves from this delivery person, make it clear that while we appreciate his contribution, this company operates through proper channels. His name is Malik Carter, Claire said quietly. I don't care what his name is, Wesley replied. I care about keeping him away from leadership floors and making sure this doesn't happen again. Claire felt something harden in her chest. He prevented a disaster. Are you suggesting we punish him for that? I'm suggesting we protect the company. And you. Wesley's expression softened just enough to seem concerned rather than threatening. Claire, you're brilliant. You've done incredible work for this company. But you're young for this position, and people are already looking for reasons to question your leadership. The words stung because they held some truth. Claire was younger than most CEOs, and she'd had to fight twice as hard to be taken seriously. Every move was scrutinized. Every emotion was seen as weakness. What do you want me to do? She asked. Issue a statement. Professional thanks for the error being caught. Make it clear it was a simple mistake that could have been spotted by anyone. Don't make him into some kind of hero. Claire nodded slowly. No publicity. I understand. And no more contact. Whatever gratitude you feel, express it through proper channels. HR can handle it. After the meeting, Claire walked back to her office, feeling like she was moving through fog. Dina was waiting with coffee and a careful expression. How bad was it? Dina asked. They want me to forget he exists. Dina set the coffee down gently. But you won't. Claire looked at her assistant. Dina had been with her for 3 years. She was one of the few people who'd seen Claire without her armor on. Do you have his information? Basic contact info, yes. He works for Metro Delivery Services, lives in Riverside. Dina paused. Claire, if you're thinking of reaching out, I know. It's complicated. It's more than complicated. It could end your career. Claire stared out her window at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, and somehow one delivery man had managed to turn hers upside down. That afternoon, Claire makes a decision before fear can talk her out of it. She said to herself, remembering something she'd read once about courage being action in spite of fear. At 4:30 in the afternoon, Claire sat in her car outside Metro Delivery Services. She'd changed out of her business suit into jeans and a simple sweater. No makeup beyond mascara. No jewelry except small gold earrings. She felt naked without her armor. The building was nothing like Whitmore HQ. It was practical and worn, with delivery trucks parked in neat rows. Men and women in brown uniforms moved with purposeful efficiency, loading packages and checking routes. She spotted Malik immediately. He was checking something on his phone near a van, his movements calm and deliberate. Even here, surrounded by the chaos of a busy shipping dock, he seemed centered. Claire got out of her car before she could change her mind. Malik looked up as she approached. His expression shifted from surprise to wariness. Ms. Whitmore. His voice was polite but guarded. Claire, please. She felt foolish standing there in her designer jeans, trying to look casual. I wanted to thank you properly, without an audience. You thanked me yesterday. I offered you money yesterday. That's different. Malik leaned, against his van, studying her face. "Why are you here?" The question was simple, but Claire realized she didn't have a simple answer. Because she felt guilty? Because she was curious about him? Because something about his calmness made her feel less alone? "Because you're the first person in 3 years who didn't want something from me," she said finally. That seemed to surprise him. His expression softened slightly. "I heard the board wasn't happy about the video," he said. "They weren't, but that's not your fault." "Isn't it? I'm the one who spoke up." "You're the one who saved the day." Claire took a breath. "Look, I know this is weird, a CEO showing up at your work, but I keep thinking about how you handled yourself in that room. You weren't intimidated. You weren't looking for credit. You just helped. That's how I was raised." "By who?" Malik glanced around the parking lot, then back at her. "My sister, mostly. Parents died when I was 14. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago." He checked his watch. "I've got 2 more stops before my shift ends." Claire felt dismissed, and part of her was relieved. This was crazy anyway. Wesley was right. She should go home, issue a professional statement, and pretend none of this had happened. "Would you like to see what a delivery route actually looks like?" Malik asked suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "What? You came all the way down here. Might as well see how the other half lives?" Claire looked at the delivery van, then at her luxury sedan parked nearby. "Is that allowed?" "Probably not, but then again, neither is CEOs having breakdowns on camera." For the first time in days, Claire almost smiled. The inside of the delivery van was surprisingly organized. Everything had its place. Packages sorted by route, clipboard with delivery confirmations, GPS unit mounted on the dashboard. Malik moved through it all with practiced efficiency. "First stop is the courthouse downtown," he said as they pulled out of the parking lot. "Legal documents, always time-sensitive." Claire buckled her seatbelt and tried not to think about what Wesley would say if he could see her now. "How long have you been doing this?" 4 years. Started right after community college." "What did you study?" "Business management." Malik navigated through traffic with calm precision. "Figured I'd work delivery while I looked for something in an office. That was 4 years ago." "Why didn't you find something?" Malik was quiet for a moment. "Hard to get interviews when your address is in the wrong zip code. Hard to get hired when you don't know the right people." Claire felt a familiar knot in her stomach. The same one she got when she thought too hard about how she'd gotten her opportunities. Yes, she was smart and worked hard. But she'd also grown up with the right connections, the right schools, the right last name. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "For the system being unfair." Malik glanced at her, amused. "You think you invented inequality?" "No, but Ms. Whitmore, Claire, you don't need to apologize for having advantages. But you don't get to feel guilty about them either. Guilt's useless. What matters is what you do with what you've got." They pulled up outside the courthouse. Malik grabbed a thick envelope from the back and headed inside. Claire watched him through the windshield. Even here, delivering papers to a government building, he carried himself with dignity, like he belonged wherever he was. When he came back, Claire had a question waiting. "Why did you help me yesterday?" "You looked like you needed help." "But you could have just delivered your package and left. You could have pretended not to notice the error." Malik started the engine. "My sister always told me to speak up when I see something wrong. She said staying quiet makes you part of the problem." "Smart sister." "Smart sister. Tough love, though. She'd have words for me about riding around with my company's CEO." Claire smiled. "What kind of words?" She'd say, "I better make sure I'm not the only one taking risks." The second stop was a small apartment complex in a neighborhood Claire had never seen before. Malik carried 3 packages up 2 flights of stairs while Claire waited in the van. She watched him knock on doors, chat briefly with an elderly woman, help a young mother wrangle a toddler while she signed for her delivery. He was patient with everyone, kind without being fake. When he came back down, Claire said, "You're good at this. It's not rocket science." "No, but you care about it. You treat everyone with respect." Malik shrugged, but she could tell the observation meant something to him. They drove toward his final stop in comfortable silence. Claire found herself relaxing for the first time in days. No phones ringing, no urgent emails, no board members questioning her every decision. Just the steady rhythm of city traffic and the quiet presence of a man who seemed genuinely unbothered by her title or her money. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said as they stopped at a red light. "Shoot. Yesterday, when you refused the reward money, was that about pride?" Malik considered the question. "Partially, but mostly it was about respect." "I don't understand the difference." "Pride is about ego. Respect is about boundaries." The light turned green. When someone offers you money for doing the right thing, it changes what you did, makes it transactional instead of human. Claire thought about that as they pulled into the parking lot of a small office building. Malik's final delivery was to an insurance agency on the second floor. "Want to come up?" he asked. "Stretch your legs?" They climbed the stairs together. Claire found herself studying the worn carpet and fluorescent lighting. This was the world most people worked in. Not marble lobbies and corner offices, but practical spaces, where people did their jobs and tried to get home to their families. The insurance office was busy with the late afternoon rush. Clients filled out forms while agents processed claims and answered phones. Malik delivered his package to the receptionist, who smiled like she'd been expecting him. "Thanks, honey. You have a good evening." "You too, Mrs. Rodriguez. Tell your husband I said hello." On the way back to the van, Claire said, "You know all your regular customers." "Part of the job. People like to feel seen." "Is that why you spoke up yesterday? To make me feel seen?" Malik stopped walking. "I spoke up because you looked scared, and because everyone in that room was too afraid to tell you the truth." Claire felt something shift in her chest. Something that had been tightly wound for months began to loosen. "I was scared," she admitted. "I've been scared for weeks. The pressure, the scrutiny, the feeling like one mistake could destroy everything I've worked for." "And then you made a mistake." "A huge one, and you fixed it." They'd reached the van. Malik leaned against the driver's side door and studied her face in the fading afternoon light. "You didn't make the mistake. You inherited it. There's a difference." "The board doesn't see it that way." "The board wasn't in that room trying to solve the problem. You were." Claire felt tears threatening and blinked them back. She couldn't afford to break down again. Not here. Not in front of him. But Malik seemed to understand. He unlocked the van and said gently, "Come on, I'll drive you back to your car." They drove back to the distribution center as the sun began to set. Claire watched the city change around them, corporate towers giving way to strip malls and residential neighborhoods, her world shrinking and expanding at the same time. "Thank you," she said as they pulled into the parking lot where her car waited. "For what?" "For treating me like a person instead of a title." Malik turned off the engine and looked at her. "Is that rare?" "Very." They sat in silence for a moment. Claire knew she should get out, drive home, and pretend this afternoon had never happened. She had emails to answer, reports to review, damage control to orchestrate. Instead, she found herself saying, "There's a diner near my apartment. Nothing fancy. Just good food and quiet booths. Would you, would you like to get dinner?" Malik was quiet for so long that Claire started to regret asking. Of course this was a bad idea. Of course he'd say no. She was his customer's CEO. She was white. She was rich. She was complicated in ways that would only bring him trouble. "I know a place," he said finally. "Better coffee than the fancy spots, and they don't care if you show up in work clothes." Claire's smile was the first real one she'd managed in weeks. They drove separately to a small diner tucked between a laundromat and a cell phone repair shop. The kind of place Claire would never have noticed, let alone entered. But when they walked in together, she felt immediately welcome. The waitress led them to a corner booth and poured coffee without being asked. The menu was laminated and simple. Burgers, salads, daily specials written on a whiteboard. "Order whatever you want," Malik said. "My treat." "You don't have to." "My idea, my treat." Claire studied the menu and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten anywhere that didn't have cloth napkins and wine lists. "What's good here?" "Everything, but the meatloaf's legendary." They ordered and sat back in the worn vinyl booth. Around them, the diner hummed with quiet conversation and the sound of plates being cleared. Normal people living normal lives. "This feels surreal," Claire said. "Good surreal or bad surreal?" "I'm not sure yet." Malik smiled. "Fair enough." Their food came quickly. Claire couldn't remember the last time she'd been this hungry, or when food had tasted this good. Maybe it was the simple pleasure of eating without checking her phone every 30 seconds. Maybe it was the company. "Can I tell you something?" she said over coffee and apple pie they decided to share. "Sure. I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in months. Everyone around me either wants something or they're afraid of me. I forgot what it felt like to just talk." "What do you usually talk about in your real conversations?" Claire laughed. "I'm not sure I remember. Work, mostly, strategy, numbers, problems to solve." "What did you want to be when you were little?" The question caught her off guard. "A teacher, I think, or maybe a writer." "What happened to that?" "Life, expectations. My father's company needed someone to take over, and I was good with numbers." "Are you happy?" No one had asked her that question in years. Claire stared into her coffee cup and realized she didn't know how to answer. "I'm successful," she said finally. "That's not the same thing." "No, it's not." They finished their pie in comfortable silence. When the check came, Malik paid it despite Claire's protests. Outside the diner, they stood by their cars in the parking lot, neither quite ready to end the evening. "Thank you," Claire said. "For the tour, for dinner, for treating me like a normal person." "You are a normal person. You just happen to have an abnormal job." Claire laughed. "I'll have to remember that." She got in her car and drove home thinking about the difference between pride and respect, about feeling seen instead of managed, about the way Malik had listened to her answers without trying to fix her problems or judge her choices. For the first time in months, Claire fell asleep easily. But 20 miles away, Malik lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd just made the best or worst decision of his life. Claire woke up the next morning with her phone buzzing against her nightstand. Dina's name flashed on the screen. "Good morning," Claire answered, still groggy. "We have a problem." Dina's voice was tight. "Someone posted a photo on Instagram. You and Malik at that diner last night." Claire sat up fast, suddenly wide awake. "What?" "It's not a great angle, but it's clearly you two sharing pie. The caption says, 'CEO and delivery guy getting cozy.' It's been shared about 200 times already." Claire's stomach dropped. "Who posted it?" Someone named City Watcher 47. Anonymous account. Could be anyone. Claire closed her eyes and tried to think. This was exactly what Wesley had warned her about. What she'd known could happen, but had chosen to ignore. "How bad is the response?" she asked. "Mixed. Some people think it's sweet, others are making assumptions, and Wesley's already called twice looking for you." Of course he had. Claire looked at her clock. 7:15 a.m. Wesley probably hadn't slept. "Tell him I'll be in by 8:30, Claire said. "And Dina, thanks for the heads up." "Claire, whatever happened last night, was it worth this?" Claire thought about sitting in that worn vinyl booth, laughing over coffee that tasted better than anything served at her usual restaurants, about feeling seen and heard instead of managed and handled. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. Wesley was waiting in her office when Claire arrived. He stood by her window with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him like a general surveying a battlefield. "Explain," he said without turning around. Claire set down her purse and took off her coat, buying herself time to think. "I thanked him for his help. We had dinner at a diner in Riverside, sharing dessert, looking very comfortable together. It was just conversation, Wesley. It was a public date." He turned around, and Claire could see the anger he was trying to control. 24 hours after I told you to maintain distance, you take this man out for dinner." "I took myself out for dinner. He happened to join me." "Don't play word games with me, Claire. This is serious." Claire sat down at her desk, trying to project calm she didn't feel. "One dinner, between two adults. I failed to see the crisis." Wesley pulled out his phone and showed her the Instagram post. In the photo, Claire was leaning forward slightly, smiling at something Malik was saying. He was cutting the pie with a look of concentration, comfortable and relaxed. They looked like a couple. They looked happy. "The optics are terrible," Wesley said. "A white female CEO having intimate dinners with a black delivery man. Do you have any idea how this will be spun? How about CEO shows gratitude to helpful employee? How about rich white woman slumming with the help, or CEO dating down for publicity, or worse?" Wesley sat down across from her desk. "Claire, I'm trying to protect you here. Your reputation, your career, this company. One photo can undo years of work." Claire stared at the image on Wesley's phone. She and Malik did look comfortable together. Natural. Like they belonged in that booth, in that moment. "What do you want me to do?" she asked quietly. "End it. Whatever this is, end it now. Issue a statement clarifying that it was a business meeting to discuss his future employment options. Keep it professional and final. And if I don't?" Wesley's expression hardened. "Then the board will have to consider whether your judgment is compromised. Whether you're putting personal feelings ahead of corporate interests." The threat hung in the air between them. Claire knew Wesley well enough to know he wasn't bluffing. He'd built his career on calculated moves and protecting the company's image. He wouldn't hesitate to remove her if he thought she'd become a liability. "I need time to think," Claire said. "You have until this afternoon. We're scheduling a press conference for 5 p.m. After Wesley left, Claire sat alone in her office staring at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, and somehow she'd forgotten how to live hers. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw the photo. You okay?" "Malik." Claire stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "How did you get my number?" "Called the main line. Told them I was returning your call about a delivery issue. Your assistant put me through." Despite everything, Claire smiled. Of course he'd found a way. "Are you okay?" she typed. "I've been better. Can we talk?" Claire looked toward her door, thinking about Wesley's ultimatum and the press conference he was planning. Not at the office. Too many eyes. I know a place. Send me your address. I'll pick you up after your workday. Claire hesitated. Meeting him again would be the end of her career. She was sure of it. She sent him her address anyway. At 6:30 that evening, Claire stood in the lobby of her apartment building watching for Malik's van. She'd changed out of her business suit into jeans and a sweater again, but this time it felt like putting on a costume. Playing dress-up as a normal person. When Malik pulled up, she almost didn't recognize him. He wasn't in his delivery uniform. Instead, he wore dark jeans and a gray button-down shirt that made his shoulders look broader. He looked good. Really good. Where are we going? Claire asked as she got into the passenger seat of his personal car, a well-maintained older Honda. Somewhere we can talk without cameras. Malik pulled away from the curb. How was your day? Terrible. Yours? About the same. My supervisor saw the photo. Wants to know if I'm involved with a client. What did you tell him? That it's complicated. They drove through the city as evening traffic thinned out. Malik seemed to know exactly where he was going, taking turns and navigating side streets with confidence. Have you seen the comments on the photo? Claire asked. Some of them. You? Dina gave me the highlights. Not pretty. Malik glanced at her. Bothering you? It should be. My board chair says it's going to destroy my career. But? Claire was quiet for a moment. But I keep thinking about last night, about feeling like myself for the first time in months. And that's worth your career? The question was direct, without judgment. Malik had a way of cutting through confusion to get to the heart of things. I don't know, Claire said honestly. Maybe I don't know who I am without my career. They pulled into the parking lot of a small park overlooking the river. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and orange. A few joggers moved along the waterfront path, but otherwise they were alone. Come on, Malik said, getting out of the car. They walked to a picnic table near the water and sat down facing the sunset. The city skyline glowed in the distance, but here it felt peaceful, removed from all the noise and pressure. Talk to me, Malik said. What's really going on? Claire told him about Wesley's ultimatum, about the press conference being planned, about the choice she was facing between her career and… what? She wasn't even sure what this was between them. He's probably right, she said finally. About the optics, about the risk to the company. Probably. You're supposed to argue with me, tell me he's wrong. Malik smiled. I'm not going to lie to you. Dating me would be complicated for someone in your position. Dating? Claire felt her heart skip. Is that what we're doing? I don't know. What would you call having dinner and then meeting secretly in a park? Claire laughed despite her stress. When you put it like that, it does sound suspicious. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Claire found herself studying Malik's profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way his eyes crinkled slightly when he was thinking. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Why did you text me today? You could have just walked away. Let me deal with the fallout alone. Malik turned to look at her. Because you looked terrified in that photo. Not happy. Terrified. Like you knew something bad was coming. I did know. And I don't like seeing you scared. The simple honesty of it hit Claire harder than any romantic declaration could have. He cared about her. Not her position, not her money, not what she could do for him. Just her. Malik, she said softly. I don't know how to do this. I've dated, but never anyone who Who wasn't in your tax bracket? Who mattered this much? The words came out before she could stop them. Malik was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached over and took her hand. His fingers were warm and calloused from work, real in a way that made her feel grounded. Claire, I need you to understand something. If we do this, whatever this is, it's going to be hard. Not just because of the race thing or the class thing, though those will matter, but because you're going to have to choose, over and over again, between what's expected and what feels right. What about you? What will you have to choose? Whether to trust you when it gets difficult, whether to believe you won't decide I'm too much trouble. Claire felt tears threaten. Have other people decided that? That you were too much trouble? Once, someone I cared about. When things got complicated, she chose easy. I'm not her. I know, but I'm still scared. They sat holding hands as the last light faded from the sky. Around them, the park grew quiet, except for the gentle sound of water lapping against the shore. What happens now? Claire asked. Now we go back to your apartment building, and you decide if you're going to that press conference tomorrow? And if I don't go? Then we figure out what comes next, together. The next morning, Claire woke up with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. She dressed carefully in her sharpest business suit and highest heels. If she was going to make a stand, she was going to look the part. Wesley was waiting in the conference room with the other board members and a PR consultant Claire didn't recognize. They looked up when she entered, and she could tell immediately that they were expecting her to fall in line. Claire, Wesley began, we've prepared a statement. I'm not giving a statement, Claire said calmly, taking her seat at the table. The room went silent. Excuse me? Said Margaret Chen. I had dinner with Malik Carter to thank him personally for his help. There's nothing scandalous about it, and I won't pretend there is. Wesley's face darkened. Claire, we discussed this. You gave me an ultimatum, Wesley. I'm declining to accept it. The PR consultant, a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, leaned forward. Ms. Whitmore, the narrative is already getting away from us. If we don't control it now, then we deal with whatever comes. But we don't throw a good man under the bus because we're afraid of gossip. This isn't gossip, Wesley said coldly. This is your reputation, this company's reputation. Based on what? One dinner? One photo? Claire looked around the table. If this company's reputation can't survive me having a meal with someone, then maybe our reputation isn't as strong as we think. Margaret Chen spoke up. Claire, we're concerned about your judgment. This relationship, it suggests you're not thinking clearly about professional boundaries. My judgment prevented a $100 million loss 3 days ago. My judgment has increased profits by 30% in 2 years. But one dinner with someone outside our social circle suddenly makes my judgment questionable? The room was quiet. Claire could see them calculating, trying to figure out how hard to push. What are you proposing? Wesley asked finally. I'm proposing we issue a simple statement if we must. Ms. Whitmore had dinner with Mr. Carter to personally thank him for his assistance. The company appreciates all our partners and vendors. End of story. And what about future contact with him? Claire met Wesley's gaze steadily. That's my personal business. Wesley's smile was cold. I'm afraid it's not. Not when it affects the company. Then perhaps, Claire said quietly, we need to discuss what role the board should play in the personal lives of senior executives. I'd be happy to bring that question to the shareholders. It was a calculated risk. The board had power, but Claire had stockholder support and a track record of success. Wesley knew that a public battle would be messy for everyone. "We'll table this discussion for now," Wesley said finally. "But Claire, this conversation isn't over." "No," Claire agreed. "It's not." That afternoon, Claire found herself standing outside Metro Delivery Services again, but this time, she wasn't nervous. She was determined. Malik was loading his van for the day when she approached. He looked up and saw her, and his expression shifted from surprise to concern. "Everything okay?" he asked. "I didn't give the press conference." "I heard. Dina called me." "She called you?" "Apparently I'm on her list of people to keep informed about your well-being." Malik smiled. "I like her. She likes you too. She thinks you're good for me." "And what do you think?" Claire stepped closer. "I think I'm tired of letting other people decide what's good for me." Malik leaned against his van, studying her face. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means I want to have dinner again. It means I want to get to know you better. It means I'm willing to deal with whatever complications come up." "Even if it costs you your job?" "Even then." Claire surprised herself with how certain she sounded. "But I have conditions." "I'm listening." "No secrets. If we do this, we do it honestly. I won't sneak around or pretend you don't exist when it's inconvenient." "Good. What else?" "I need you to be patient with me. I've never dated anyone who didn't come from my world. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to say the wrong things or make assumptions. When that happens, call me on it." Malik nodded. "What else?" "I need to know this is real for you. Not a novelty or a challenge or a way to get back at the system. Just real." Malik stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne and see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "Claire," he said softly. "Yesterday when I saw that photo, my first thought wasn't about the trouble it would cause me. It was about how happy you looked. How right it felt to see you smiling like that." He reached up and touched her cheek gently. "This is real for me. Probably the most real thing I've felt in years." Claire felt something settle in her chest. Something that had been restless and afraid, finally finding a place to rest. "Okay," she said. "So what now?" "Now you let me finish my route. And tonight, I take you somewhere we can talk without worrying about cameras." "Where?" Malik's smile was warm and mysterious. "Trust me." That evening, Malik picked Claire up in his car again. This time, he drove toward the outskirts of the city, where the buildings grew smaller and the sky opened up. "Where are we going?" Claire asked. "You'll see." They ended up at a small community center in a neighborhood Claire had never visited. The parking lot was half full, and she could hear music and laughter coming from inside. "Thursday night is dance class," Malik explained. "Salsa lessons for beginners, then open dancing. My sister teaches." "Your sister?" "Renee. She's been wanting to meet you." Claire felt a flutter of nervousness. "Will she like me?" "That depends. Can you handle tough love?" Before Claire could answer, the front door of the community center opened and a woman came out. She was tall and graceful, with the same warm brown eyes as Malik, but a sharper edge to her expression. "You must be Claire," Renee said, extending her hand. "I'm Renee Carter, and you and I need to talk." Claire glanced at Malik, who just shrugged. "I told you she was tough love." Renee led them inside to a small office off the main dance floor. Through the window, Claire could see couples moving through basic salsa steps while an instructor called out directions. "Sit," Renee said, settling behind her desk. "Malik, get lost for a few minutes." "Renee?" Malik started. "Go, we need girl talk." After Malik left, Renee studied Claire with the kind of direct gaze that seemed to see everything. "So," Renee said, You're the CEO. I am. And you're interested in my brother. I am. Why? The question was blunt, without any social niceties. Claire appreciated the directness. Because he's kind, without being weak. Smart, without being arrogant. He sees me as a person instead of a position. And when the novelty wears off, when dating a delivery driver stops being exciting, Claire felt a flash of anger. Is that what you think this is? Some kind of slumming adventure? I don't know what this is. That's why I'm asking. Renee leaned forward. Claire, I've watched my brother get his heart broken by someone who decided he wasn't worth the complications. I won't watch it happen again. I'm not her. No? Then prove it. When your board pressures you, when your friends make comments, when strangers online say ugly things about you dating down, what then? Claire was quiet for a moment. Then I handle it, because he's worth it. Is he? Worth your reputation, your career, your social circle? Yes. The simple answer seemed to surprise Renee. She sat back in her chair and studied Claire's face. Okay, she said finally. But understand something. Malik puts everyone else first. Always. He'll protect you even when it hurts him. Don't let him do that. What do you mean? I mean, make sure you're taking risks too. Make sure you're fighting for him as hard as he'll fight for you. Before Claire could respond, Malik knocked on the door. Are you two done terrorizing each other? He asked, poking his head in. For now, Renee said, standing up. Claire, you want to learn to salsa? I'm not much of a dancer. Perfect. Malik loves a challenge. They went out to the main floor, where the beginner class was winding down. Malik led Claire to a quiet corner and showed her the basic steps. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Rock forward, rock back. Claire felt awkward at first, too aware of her expensive shoes and her lack of rhythm. But Malik was patient, guiding her through the movements with gentle pressure on her lower back. Relax, he said softly. Just feel the music. Gradually, Claire began to let go. The stress of the past few days melted away as she focused on following Malik's lead, on the warmth of his hand in hers, on the way he smiled when she finally got a sequence right. You're a good teacher, she said as the song ended. You're a good student when you stop overthinking. Around them, other couples were laughing and stumbling through their own lessons. Claire looked around at the diverse group, young and old, different races and backgrounds, all just enjoying themselves without worry about status or image. This is nice, she said. Normal. Welcome to my world, Malik said. No boardrooms, no stock prices, no press conferences, just people being people. Claire rested her head against his shoulder as they swayed to the slower song that followed. I could get used to this, she said. Good, Malik replied, because I'm planning to keep you around for a while. For the first time in days, Claire felt truly hopeful. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever Wesley and the board threw at them, they would face it together. But as they danced, neither of them noticed the person in the corner taking photos with a phone. Photos that would be uploaded to social media within the hour, with captions that would make the diner photo look tame by comparison. Claire woke up Friday morning to her phone ringing at 6 a.m. Wesley's name flashed on the screen like a warning. Have you seen the new photos? His voice was tight, with barely controlled anger. Claire's stomach dropped. What photos? Check your email, now. Claire fumbled for her laptop while Wesley waited on the line. In her inbox was a message from him with 3 attached images. Her heart sank as she opened them. The photos were from the salsa class. Claire and Malik dancing close together, his hands on her waist, her head on his shoulder. They looked intimate. They looked like a couple in love. The caption read, CEO's secret romance heats up, dancing the night away while company stock tumbles. Wesley, emergency board meeting, 7 a.m. Don't be late. The line went dead. Claire stared at the photos on her screen. They were beautiful, actually. She and Malik looked happy, natural, like they belonged together. But she knew how they would be seen by the board, by investors, by a public already hungry for scandal. Her phone buzzed with a text from Malik. Saw the photos? I'm sorry. This is my fault. Claire typed back quickly. Not your fault. Mine. I knew this could happen. What do you want to do? Claire looked at the photos again, at the evidence of her happiness captured in pixels and shared with the world. Fight, she typed back. The boardroom felt like a courtroom when Claire walked in 20 minutes later. Wesley sat at the head of the table with the other board members flanked around him. Their faces were grim. A laptop sat open in the center of the table, displaying one of the dance photos. Sit down, Claire, Wesley said coldly. Claire took her usual seat and waited. She'd learned that letting them speak first would tell her how bad this really was. The photos have been shared 8,000 times in 12 hours, said Margaret Chen. The company stock is down 3% in pre-market trading. Social media is calling it everything from inspirational love story to rich white girl's diversity experiment, added Robert Kane, the third board member. The comments are ugly. Wesley leaned forward. Claire, this ends now. Not next week, not after we think about it. Now. What exactly are you proposing? A public statement. You are thanking Mr. Carter for his service. The photos are being taken out of context. You've since realized that the attention was unfair to him, and you've ended all personal contact. In other words, lie. In other words, save your career and this company's reputation. Claire looked around the table at faces she'd known for years. People who'd mentored her, supported her, believed in her leadership. And if I refuse? Then the board will vote on your fitness to continue as CEO, Wesley said quietly. And I think you know how that vote will go. The threat hung in the air. Claire knew Wesley wasn't bluffing. The board had the power to remove her, and right now they were unified in their concern. How long do I have to decide? We're holding a press conference at noon, with or without you. Claire nodded and stood up. Then I'll see you at noon. Claire drove to Metro Delivery Services in a daze. Part of her couldn't believe she was about to throw away everything she'd worked for. Another part of her couldn't believe she'd waited this long to choose something real. Malik was loading his van when she pulled up. He took one look at her face and set down the package he was holding. How bad? He asked. They're calling for my resignation if I don't end this publicly. Malik leaned against his van and closed his eyes briefly. Then end it. What? Claire, look at me. His voice was gentle but firm. You've worked your whole life for that job. I won't be the reason you lose it. You're not the reason. My choice is the reason. Same thing. Claire stepped closer to him. No, it's not. Malik, 3 days ago, I was miserable. Successful, but miserable. Going through the motions of a life I didn't even enjoy. And now? Now I remember what it feels like to be happy. Malik's expression was pained. Happiness doesn't pay the bills, doesn't give you purpose, doesn't... Stop! Claire put her hand on his chest. Don't you dare make this decision for me. Don't you dare protect me from my own choices. I'm trying to be realistic. You're trying to run away before I can. Claire's voice was stronger now, more certain. Isn't that what you said? That you were afraid I'd decide you were too much trouble? Malik was quiet. Well, I'm deciding right now. You're not too much trouble. You're worth it. Worth what? Your career? Your future? Worth fighting for. Worth taking risks for. worth choosing over a job that was slowly killing my soul. They stood in the parking lot staring at each other. Around them, other drivers prepared for their routes, oblivious to the drama playing out beside them. "What if you're wrong?" Malik asked quietly. "What if you choose me and regret it? What if I choose them and spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been?" Malik reached up and touched her face gently. "Claire?" "I'm not her," Claire said firmly. "I'm not the woman who hurt you before. I'm not going to run when things get hard." "How do I know that?" "Because I'm here, right now, in a delivery company parking lot, telling you that I'd rather lose my job than lose you." Malik pulled her into his arms then, holding her tight against his chest. Claire could feel his heart racing. "This is crazy," he whispered. "The best things usually are." They held each other for a long moment, both knowing that whatever came next would change everything. "I have to go to this press conference," Claire said finally. "I know. Will you be there?" Malik smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him all morning. "Wouldn't miss it." The Whitmore Consumer Goods conference room was packed by 11:30. Reporters filled the chairs while camera crews set up equipment. The buzz of conversation was low and expectant. Claire stood in her office looking out at the gathering crowd. Dina knocked and entered with a cup of coffee and a worried expression. "You sure about this?" Dina asked. "No, but I'm sure about him. The board's already in the conference room. Wesley looks like he wants to murder someone." Claire smiled grimly. "Probably me." "Your statement is loaded into the teleprompter, Wesley's version." "Delete it." "Claire?" "Delete it, Dina. I'm going off script." Dina stared at her for a moment, then nodded. "It's deleted. You want me to tell Wesley?" "He'll figure it out." At exactly noon, Claire walked into the conference room. The cameras swung toward her as she approached the podium. She could see Wesley in the front row, his face carefully neutral, but his eyes promising consequences. In the back of the room, she spotted Malik. He stood against the wall in his best shirt and tie, his expression calm and supportive. Claire looked directly into the cameras and began to speak. "Good afternoon. I'm Claire Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Consumer Goods. I'm here to address recent speculation about my personal life." She could see Wesley lean forward slightly, waiting for her to follow the script. 3 days ago, Malik Carter, a delivery professional, prevented this company from losing over $100 million. He spotted an error that our entire accounting department had missed. His quick thinking and willingness to speak up saved jobs and protected shareholder value. Claire paused and found Malik's eyes in the crowd. Mr. Carter could have delivered his package and left. He could have minded his own business and stayed silent. Instead, he showed courage and integrity, qualities this company values highly. She took a breath. "In the days since, Mr. Carter and I have had several conversations. We've discovered we have a lot in common despite our different backgrounds. We've enjoyed each other's company, and yes, we've shared meals together." A murmur ran through the crowd. She could see Wesley's face darkening. "I want to be clear about something. Malik Carter is not my employee. He doesn't work for me. He's an independent contractor providing services to this company. As such, there are no workplace regulations governing our personal interactions." Claire gripped the podium and continued. "More importantly, I refuse to apologize for getting to know a good man. I refuse to be ashamed of enjoying the company of someone who treats me with respect and kindness. And I absolutely refuse to let fear of gossip or concern about optics prevent me from living authentically." The room was dead silent now. "Mr. Carter has shown more character in 3 days than most people show in a lifetime. If the public, the media, or anyone else wants to judge me for recognizing that, they're welcome to do so. Claire looked directly at Wesley. This company will continue to operate with the same excellence and integrity it always has. My personal life will not interfere with my professional responsibilities. But neither will my professional position dictate who I'm allowed to care about. She stepped back from the podium. Thank you. No questions. The room erupted as Claire walked out. Reporters shouted questions while cameras followed her movement. But Claire didn't look back. She walked straight to where Malik was standing. Ready to get out of here? She asked. Malik's smile was radiant. I thought you'd never ask. They drove to the same park by the river where they'd talked 2 nights earlier. But this time, everything felt different. Lighter. Like a weight had been lifted from both of them. So, Malik said as they sat on their picnic table. How do you think that went? I think I just ended my career in spectacular fashion. Any regrets? Claire considered the question seriously. Ask me in 6 months. Malik laughed. Fair enough. Claire's phone had been buzzing constantly since they'd left the press conference. Calls from board members, reporters, investors. She'd turned it off 20 minutes ago. What happens now? She asked. Now we figure out how to build something real together. Even if I'm unemployed by tomorrow? Especially then. I know all the best diners in town. We'll survive. They sat watching the water flow by, processing what had just happened, what they'd just committed to. Malik, Claire said eventually, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. It scares me. Good scared or bad scared? Claire smiled. Good scared. Like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing you actually want to jump. I know exactly what you mean. Malik took her hand and intertwined their fingers. Claire? Yeah? Whatever happens with your job, whatever people say about us, whatever comes next, I'm all in, if you are. Claire looked at their joined hands, then at his face, at the man who'd seen her at her most vulnerable and chosen to stay, who'd risked his own reputation to be honest with her, who made her feel seen and valued and worthy of love. I'm all in, she said. 6 weeks later, Claire was chopping vegetables in Malik's small kitchen while he stirred something on the stove. The radio played softly in the background, and the apartment smelled like garlic and herbs. You're getting better at this, Malik said, glancing at her knife work. I had a good teacher. The past month and a half had been a whirlwind. The board had indeed voted to remove Claire as CEO, but the backlash from shareholders and employees had been swift and decisive. Her replacement lasted 2 weeks before public pressure forced the board to offer Claire her position back. She'd declined. Instead, Claire had started her own consulting firm, helping companies identify inefficiencies and improve operations. Her first client had been a small manufacturing company in Riverside. Her second had been a nonprofit in Malik's neighborhood. She made a third of what she used to make, and she'd never been happier. Delivery for Claire Whitmore, Malik announced in an official voice, setting a plate in front of her. What's the damage? She asked, playing along. 1 home-cooked meal, prepared with love. No charge for the chef's company. Claire took a bite and closed her eyes. Perfect, as always. They ate at Malik's small dining table, talking about their days. Claire had met with a potential new client. Malik was being promoted to route supervisor at work with a raise that made him smile for hours. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Claire said. Dina's dating that guy from accounting, the one who was always bringing her coffee. About time. She deserves someone who appreciates her. She said to tell you hi, and that you should come to dinner Sunday. Malik raised an eyebrow. At your place? Our place, Claire corrected, if you want it to be. They'd been talking about moving in together for weeks. Malik's lease was up at the end of the month, and Claire's downtown penthouse felt too cold and empty now. "You sure you want to slum it with a delivery guy?" Malik teased. "You sure you want to put up with an uptight former CEO?" "Every day for the rest of my life, if you'll have me." The words hung in the air between them. Not quite a proposal, but close enough to make Claire's heart race. "Is that a hypothetical question?" she asked softly. Malik set down his fork and looked at her seriously. "What if it wasn't?" "Then I'd say yes, every day for the rest of my life." They finished dinner in a new kind of silence, full of possibility and promises. Later, as they cleaned up together, Claire caught their reflection in the kitchen window. Two people who'd found each other against all odds, choosing love over fear every single day. It wasn't easy. There were still comments online, still disapproving looks from some of Claire's former colleagues. Malik still dealt with assumptions and coded language from people who couldn't understand what Claire saw in him. But they faced it together. They talked through the hard moments and celebrated the good ones. They built something real and lasting, based on respect, trust, and the kind of love that grows stronger under pressure. 1 year later, Claire stood in the same community center where Malik had first taken her to salsa class. But this time, the space was decorated with white flowers and fairy lights. Folding chairs were arranged in neat rows, filled with the people who mattered most to them. Renee stood at the front in a beautiful blue dress, having gotten ordained online specifically to perform the ceremony. Dina sat in the front row next to Claire's parents, who had flown in from Boston and surprised everyone by adoring Malik immediately. Malik waited at the makeshift altar in a simple black suit, his hands clasped behind his back. When the music started and Claire appeared at the back of the room, his face lit up with the same joy she'd seen that first day in the conference room. Claire's dress was simple too, white, elegant, but not ostentatious. She'd learned to appreciate the beauty in simplicity. As she walked down the aisle, she caught sight of some unexpected faces in the crowd. Marcus from the delivery company, sitting next to some of Malik's root customers. Wesley was there too, in a back row, having reluctantly admitted that Malik was good for her after watching them together for months. "Dearly beloved," Renee began, her voice carrying easily through the small space. "We're here today because two people found something rare and precious. They found love that sees past surfaces to the heart, underneath." Claire and Malik stood facing each other, hands joined, eyes locked. Everything else faded away. They found love that chooses courage over comfort, truth over convenience, and each other over everything else. When it came time for vows, Claire spoke first. "Malik, you taught me that strength isn't about having power over others. It's about knowing who you are and standing firm in that knowledge. You showed me what it means to be seen and valued for who I really am, not what I can provide." Her voice was steady, clear. "You changed my life not by rescuing me, but by believing I was worth fighting for. I promise to fight for you the same way, every day, in every choice, for the rest of our lives." Malik's vows were simpler, but no less powerful. "Claire, you could have chosen easy. You could have chosen safe. Instead, you chose us. You chose love even when it was hard, even when it cost you." He squeezed her hands gently. "I promise to be worthy of that choice, to love you with the same courage you've shown me, to build a life with you that's based on truth, respect, and the kind of joy we find in ordinary moments." When Renee pronounced them married, the room erupted in cheers. But Claire only heard her heartbeat, and Malik's whispered, "I love you," as he kissed her. Later, as they danced their first dance to the same song they'd learned to salsa to, Claire looked around at the faces surrounding them. friends and family who'd supported them through the challenges and celebrated their victories. No regrets? Malik asked softly. Claire smiled up at her husband. Not a single one. Even about the CEO thing? Especially about the CEO thing. That job made me successful. You make me happy. And that's enough? Claire thought about her old life, the marble offices and board meetings, the constant pressure and isolation, the feeling that she was playing a role instead of living her life. Then she thought about this past year, starting her own company, helping small businesses grow, cooking dinner with Malik every night, learning to salsa, and failing spectacularly, but laughing through it anyway. It's everything, she said. As the song ended, Claire caught sight of someone in the corner with a phone camera. For a split second, she felt the old panic, the fear of being seen, judged, misunderstood. Then Malik spun her around and she laughed, and she realized she didn't care anymore. Let them take pictures. Let them share videos. She had nothing to hide. She was Claire Carter now. Wife to a good man, owner of a growing business, member of a community that had welcomed her with open arms. She was exactly where she belonged. The camera clicked, capturing a moment of pure joy. But this time, Claire didn't flinch. She just danced, surrounded by love and possibility, ready for whatever came next. Because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the best decisions are the ones that look crazy from the outside, but feel absolutely right from the inside. Sometimes, choosing love over fear is the only choice that matters. And sometimes, a chance encounter with a delivery man can change everything.